onto, I don't know, call it dancing on the grave of my giant adversary. I'm just joking. I love you, Apple. You're a very valued partner. So we've been gone for a couple of weeks, and we missed a huge drama around Apple and Epic. So a little bit of background. In mid-February, Epic announced its plan to launch an app store on iOS in Europe in according with the new Digital Markets Act in the EU, which is great. It means legislation's working. Tim Sweeney, in the intervening time, tweeted from his personal account about how Apple has been a bad faith actor in the ecosystem and they're exercising monopolistic control, and they are. But he's a really big platform and yelling about it. They had also, in the intervening time, had applied for a developer account and been approved. And then, supposedly in response to Tim Sweeney's tweets, they banned the developer account, and they cited in their emails, which have been since published, that part of the reason why is because of what Tim Sweeney said, which seems like pretty much like they're using their platform to silence people's free speech, which is pretty crazy. But following the uproar, Epic released their public communications from the Apple team, and people got to see basically exactly what was going on. And then also, and this is really important, is there was an inquiry from the European Commission, which basically was saying, hey, is this against the new Digital Markets Act, which just rolled out? And I think Apple, sensing that they had come down the wrong side of this, quickly reversed their stance and let Epic back into the App Store, or reactivated their developer account so that they can now build their own App Store. So what does this mean? Epic's bringing an App Store to the iOS. Fortnite will be in the EU on iOS once this launches out. And then the DMA, the Digital Markets Act, seems to be doing a reasonable job of facilitating competition in that market. Maybe we should pass similar laws here, maybe some thoughts. But that's the high level. Epic, Fortnite coming to Europe, huge deal. There's a lot of other components of this, but Warren, what do you think of the top line?
Yeah, I mean, this is the saga that just keeps getting, there's got to be a movie being made about this at some point. Just every month, like the drama continues from it. Some of the public call outs and sharing of like internal communications from both parties, pretty spicy on this one. I'm kind of thinking about what does it mean once this precedent is established in EU, in Europe? What's that going to mean for policy in the rest of the world? What are your thoughts on that, Xander?
Well, so my understanding is they've tailored the technology to be very, very precise and only count in the EU. This is not something that's going to ripple out to at least the US market. And there's like really obvious reason for that, which is like Apple wants their cut in the US market. I was reading on Twitter that if you were physically outside the EU for long enough, your app store will basically like revert and like lock back to a non-EU app store. So it seems like this is not going to be something that's going to proliferate by itself. This is something that's going to be legislated geo by geo, and Apple will comply when forced to on a geographical basis, is what my intuition is based on what I've seen so far.
I'm curious too if we'll see from a user perspective, Apple makes it pretty hard to download apps from foreign app stores to your home territory. But for those savvy enough, there are workarounds. Gamers do this all the time. I do this all the time to get early access to apps that are not yet out in the US. And Fortnite is pretty powerful. So even just being available in select app stores, we might see an uptick in players that are just doing weird stuff in order to be able to play natively Fortnite on their iPhones.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're anywhere near the end of this saga. I think we're still in the early innings.
Yeah, there's a couple of interesting things that also fall out of the Digital Markets Act I just wanted to touch on. So one of the requirements was that iPhone users have to have the option to choose their default browser. What we saw was that installations of the Brave browser skyrocketed when the selection process was forced upon the users. And so this is pretty enlightening because it shows you like there's obviously a huge lock-in effect that happens from defaults. And so giving people the option, a lot less people are going to choose defaults. Now, the browser is the first one. App Store is like an obvious knock-on example of how the default, when breaking the stranglehold on the default, can have a big long-term impact on who owns the user. And that's, I think, really, really important. One other thing that I think this is worth touching on, the European Commission also fined Apple $1.8 billion for its anti-competitive behavior as relates to Spotify and Apple Music. Now, Spotify is like a preeminent European tech company. This is, I think, Europe using their cudgel to bludgeon Apple a little bit in defense of their unicorn tech company. But that's just crazy ham-handed. I saw some analysis that like the European market is 7% of the total IAP market overall. And the way that this fine is levied is 10% on all global revenue. So the people are arguing like basically it might be in Apple's best interest to pull out of the EU if they expect fines like this. Now, that's pure speculation. That probably will never happen, but that's the scale of the fine we're talking about, which I just think is funny and worth touching on. That is what's going on with Apple and Epic. More to come, I am sure.
No doubt.